you and I know. And yeah, so thanks a lot for that. And I hope you guys are going to have a great time tonight. We are still waiting for the players to get set up. They are on Magic Online right now, and I think we should be able to start somewhat soonish. Otherwise, what are your hopes for the league tonight? Like, how do you think things are going to play out?
So looking at the deck list for the first round here, Jody Keith's deck list looks absolutely terrifying to me for a Death and Taxes player, because he has engineered explosives that can be a main deck sweeper for things like Aether Vial that normally can push the Death and Taxes player very far ahead in this matchup, as well as invalidating an early Mother of Runes that otherwise could protect from Swords to Plowshares. He has Humility as an end game, like, all your critters don't get to do things, no more Flicker Wisp shenanigans. And we also see multiple other unique removal spells, like Council's Judgment, Decree of Justice, and Supreme Verdict as well. This is a scary package, and there's also Spell Snares. So even if Malamujo gets to play, Spell Snare can go and get, an early Thalia or Stoneforge Mystic that otherwise might be very threatening.
Yeah, I've had this feeling that Spell Snare is a card that's been making a huge comeback in Legacy lately. Even like somewhat before the ban of Death Gem, but especially now. Like I see it in Miracles lists, I see it in these Landstill lists, I see it, of course, in like the Tempo lists and Rock Delver, Canadian Threshold, but also in Stoneblade lists. Like not as a 4-off, like not really, but as a 2-off, you see it quite often.
Yeah, I've been seeing
I've certainly run into it like a couple of times with average visionaries who usually feel they're like untouchable on this deck. But yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of Rug Delver with like a 2-2 split of Spell Snare and Spell Pierce, and that's felt pretty good to me.
Yeah. So who do you think is going to take it? Like, again, Jody against Manimuchu, Mislav. By the way, Mislav, I thought he was like a Croatian handball national team player, because when I first Googled his name to find pictures of him for our website, there's this website, like this Wikipedia article about him, I thought, and like they only had like a bad picture of him, and I also didn't really have a really good picture of him personally anyway. So I figured, yeah, that could actually be him. Maybe he's on the Croatian national team. That's actually pretty badass. And I put it on the website, and then later turns out he's not. Or actually, I've never asked him, but I think he's not.
Well, until he's confirmed not, let's play it safe and assume that he is. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I want to see that. Like, he actually quits Magic just to focus more on handball. But I think the guy in the picture was actually, like, towards the end of his career. I don't know. So, yeah, sorry. Going back to what I said, who do you think is going to take the first match?
My money is on Jody Keith.
Is it?
Yes.
So I've heard so many good things about Jody. Like, I honestly have to admit, I didn't know him before he made top 8. I think he made top 8 at GP Las Vegas last year playing Lance. So I was wondering... Yes. Maybe that's what he's going to play. Then on social media, he showed me a lot of Landstill. Yeah, love. I didn't really see the deck lists, and I just realized, wow, it's really a humility deck list, like old school. I remember playing Legacy in 2005, and they actually had humility back then.
So I don't know too much about Jody Keith outside of Lands, because that's the only thing I've ever seen him play. But I'm assuming he has other finishes with other decks, and if he is a competent player with this deck, I think it's going to be hard for Mislav to take it down. Now, it's not impossible, though. There's a lot of good tools in his deck list that'll be really annoying in this matchup. Yeah,
doesn't Texas the kind of deck, unless it's up against like what we in Germany sometimes call a bullshit deck that kills it like before it even gets to make the first land drop. I feel it has a lot of game. Like, yeah, there's bad matchups, say Elves, that are still very hard. But other than that, like, I was talking to Marius Hausmann, a friend of mine, just before the league, and he told me he watched Michael Bonder's games from, was it last week or the opening week? I don't remember. And he told me, whoa, Michael, at some point, he just started doing magic, like, in the games, and actually crawled his way back into the game, which was, like, super impressive to him. So that's just Death in Texas. A lot of you guys might know Mark Koenig, Bara from Denmark, who also used to stream a lot, but also streams at times. And he once described it to me as, like, the mirror match in Death in Texas, especially, that's, like, the closest you will ever get to chess in Magic. And that was, like, pretty impressive, because most Death in Texas players I talk to, they agree on that. It's like, whoa, it's actually quite a spot-on comparison.
I think, like, the most interesting games of Magic I've ever played are probably, like, the Death and Taxes Mirror, or maybe, like, D&T versus Pre-Sensei's Divining Top banning Miracles. where you just get like so much interaction on both sides of the battlefield that the decisions matter so much.
Until they finally treat the angels and just kill you. At least that's what happened when I played the deck. But I probably never played against the best Death and Taxes players in the world. I think the only time I ever played it against Miracles was when Philipp Schöneger and I decided to switch decks for a tournament, and he played Elves and I played Miracles. And like we both didn't really do very well, and eventually we found ourselves like in the 0-3 mirror match. And I think at one point I lost to Death and Taxes even. Yeah. But I got to angel them out at one point. So yeah, there's something. So interesting to see there's Walking Ballista in the deck. Is that like something that people have been trying, or is it like a recruiter of the guard targets, I would think?
So this is one of those cards that gets kicked around on forums from time to time. And in the past, I've never really been on board with this. You can kind of view it in 3 different ways. The first way is that it's a 2-mana removal spell that kills a 1/1, which is fine for a lot of threats in the format. Things like Delver of Secrets, Young Pyromancer, Mother of Runes, and so forth. The second is that it's a great end game mana sink. If you're sitting on like 6 mana because you flooded out a little bit or the game's gone to turn 13, drawing that thing presents a huge threat to any sort of fair deck. And the final thing is that it's a recruiter of the guard target, although unfortunately it plays very poorly with Aether Vial, unlike most of the other cards in this deck.
I see. By the way, am I on camera yet, Mike? I still gotta change into my LPL shirt. Oh, I might be. Okay, I'm gonna run away and change. I guess I shouldn't be on camera anymore, and otherwise I will probably be banned from Twitch. Okay. Oh, can you guys see it? Not yet, I guess. Almost. Whoop. At least you can see the logo, I guess.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Oh, look at those sweet logos. Mislav is Dunkin' Donuts and Jody Keith is Krusty Burger. I wonder who made those.
Someone very talented.
Probably not. I happen to know a guy, and he's probably not very talented at all. He just spends infinite hours on these pictures. Maybe not the logos. So, opening hands. We got Mislav on the play, and I think his hand isn't very impressive, but he keeps. He doesn't really know what Jody's on, so I guess it's a keep, but it's probably one of the worst keeps you have in the deck, is it not?
It's a very mediocre hand because effectively with Batterskull in the opener alongside Thalia, it's really a 6-card hand, and he has nothing on his side of the battlefield that he's going to want to Flicker Wisp. I can understand not throwing the hand back because it is very stable, and if you're playing against something like, say, Rug Delver or something of that nature, you have a great turn 2 threat, you have 2 things that can trade with a value, you're not going to get wastelanded. But most of your best opening hands have either Mother of Runes or Aether Vial in them, or at least multiple 2-drops. So this is on the weaker side of acceptable opening hands.
Yeah, and from Jody's side, is there any card that you're really scared about? Because I can see how Engineered Explosives on 2 usually destroys a lot of things on the Death and Taxes side, but right now, it doesn't seem too great to me. Like, Caracas can be annoying with Thalia, I guess, but yeah. It's not like Jody has any kind of card advantage engine, which usually is what you want to establish when the opponent has a weak opening.
So we have the potential to see a couple of really cool things in the next turn cycle or so here. Engineered Explosives has some cool interactions with Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, where you can cast it for X. Let's say you cast it for 1, paying blue, and then you can pay Thalia's tax with a different color to put EE on 2 without really paying the Thalia tax.
Yeah, so you get like to engage in tax evasion, like all of the big European footballers recently discovered. Somebody should make a satire website about Magic, how Thalia is engaged in very heavy tax evasion. I know somebody wrote that piece about Yoshi, and I still don't believe it, but it might be true. Anyway, we got the 3/1 Flicker Wisp coming down, untapping a land for probably no value at all, but
I mean, no value, but it represents Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah. And it's a beater. Like, Jody's hand also isn't really great. He's got no cantrips. He's got a bunch of counter spells, which are usually not very great against what seems to be more like a limited deck right now. I guess he's got Chitter, so that should be good in a limited deck, but not here. I guess trading your figures for Swords and Plowshares here isn't the worst, right? Like, it's only really a piece of meat, and you want to get rid of it.
It'll be interesting what we see here. We're probably early enough on in the matchup where Mislav isn't quite sure what his opponent is playing yet. Like, all indications might be pointing towards this being Blue-White-Red Stoneblade or something like that. So it's probably too early to just like throw the Revoker out there and blind name something like Jace or Jete or something like that.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be too uncomfortable naming Chase here, because all the decks that I would have on my list right now, like Stoneblade or even Miracles, which would be weird to have a Caracas, would probably have Chase. But if he did his homework, he probably already knows that Jody's on Landstill, because Jody has been quite vocal about it, as I said, on social media. So what are you looking to put the Revoker on in the blind? Like, do you anticipate the engineered explosives, or is it more of a thing that you really want to shut down Chase here?
So without knowing the deck list, I would be most inclined to put it on Jace, as that's the card that's going to run away with the game. Engineered explosives is not like unprecedented or even uncommon in this deck by any means. But given the cards that he has in hand right now, an EE isn't all that devastating. Like, even if we see the worst case scenario of like play out Revoker on Jace and also drop Jete, and he gets the 2-for-1 with EE, like that'll also take out the opposing Snapcaster in the process. Yeah. Then we're at like Hardcast Batterskull, answer the token, reset with Flicker Wisp, and there's still a real game plan here.
Yeah, and I would assume that like losing the Jitter isn't the biggest deal in the world. So what are you looking to draw here on the Death and Taxes side? Like, I can see that Jody wants to draw probably like a Landstill, if he can. Yeah, Landstill wouldn't be the worst here. Or yeah, so what is Mislav looking to draw?
Something like Recruiter of the Guard to help press through like some of the opposing hate that he's going to see would be pretty useful. Also, drawing cards that cantrip in some way, like Stoneforge Mystic, probably would be pretty good here.
Yeah.
The issue is, like, currently he's not presenting a clock, and if he's not presenting the clock, the game is going long. And so, if you have a Prelate in the main deck, that would be pretty good as well.
I think I haven't seen a Prelate, but I could be wrong. I saw like the Remorse for Cleric. By the way, tell me about that. Like, is that card really the real deal? Because I've seen it in a lot of Death and Taxes decks lately, and is it really just there because it's got like flying and some marginal utility and a couple of matchups? Like, it's an all-around decent card?
So the easiest comparison I can make is to Selfless Spirit, a 2/1 flyer that gives indestructible to your creatures if you sacrifice it. I had been playing around with that in the pre-banning period as just another aggressive early threat, because D&T really lacks that. Most of your threats you can't just play out on turn 2, and that one gets in for a lot of damage. It's a wonderful one-up in the deck, and it has really done wonders for my win percentage against decks like 4-color Loam, Lands, and Dredge.
So it's basically the white Scavenging Ooze.
Yep.
Oh, interesting that Jody opted to find Standstill here instead of Humility. I thought he would surely gonna get Humility here, but he opts for Standstill. And as far as I've seen, there's no manlands. Like, there's sometimes in the past you saw guys like Thomas Ingevoldsen run like a one-off Misha's Factory, but not anymore. Like, don't really have any manlands, so he's eventually gonna have to break the Standstill unless he's planning on decking Jody when he like can trade all his wastelands for all his manlands.
So
actually,
now
is that a thing?
That rarely happens, because of like in some cases, if the standstill player gets far enough ahead with like their hand, they can just like crack their own standstill at your end step, make you draw some cards. But if you don't have vials, you can't actually use those cards. You just discard them, and then they can play Jace on an empty board with a fistful of counter spells and 1-drop removal spells. And the game's just over in a completely different direction.
Yeah, so they basically get to restart the game with a lot of lands on both sides, but they get the first mana. Like, they're always going to be so much ahead. Like, if you only got one land, like going first, okay. But if you have like a 5 or 6 mana advantage that accumulates over a couple of turns, it's going to be a big thing. So, what is Mislav looking to do here? Is he really just gonna, like, I guess. So what I could see him doing is to eventually draw Swords and Plowshares and basically do the same back to Jody. Like, end of turn Swords to Plowshares, the Misha's Factory, make Jody draw up to potentially 11 and then make him discard 4 cards.
So there's a couple of different techniques. That's the first. The second is draw a card for turn, be at 8 cards in hand of his own, and then try to commit multiple cards that matter in the same turn to Standstill that attack from different angles. So for example, if he goes and plays out a creature that cracks a Standstill and it's answered, then he can drop like second Ether Vial and a creature. And that can at least put him on board in different ways so that the follow-up Standstill isn't devastating.
I see. Yeah, the follow-up Standstill is actually what sometimes gets me with elves. Like, I feel that I've weathered the storm and I can actually like play on par now. And then they just untap and Supreme Verdict into another Standstill, and I feel like I'm so far behind. And we might even eventually get to see that, because Mislav is really dedicated to doing nothing. I want to say.
Well,
at least for now.
If he didn't crack the Standstill the first turn just by like playing out the Flicker Wisp and saying, okay, I give you Ancestral, let's continue playing Magic, he has to now wait until it's a position where it's at least somewhat favorable for him to crack that. And I don't think he's anywhere near that currently.
Yeah. But also Jody's hand, like, I think he's just going to sit tight and eventually might even have to discard, which... I guess the second otherwise is actually pretty good. So the second otherwise is interesting in the way, like you mentioned, like you just run out a bunch of things that Jody has to answer, and eventually something's going to stick. And if one of those things is going to be otherwise, then, like you mentioned, the second, or even in this case, third Standstill is not going to be very impressive at all. In general, Forcible, I guess it's a card that helps just like to make use of the card advantage you get from the Standstill, because you can't really pay for all the spells you draw, like in a single turn cycle. But overall, is it a card that you expect Jody to eventually side out?
Let me just scan his sideboard real quick, because like the big question is like, what are your in-out numbers rather than what cards are good versus what cards are bad? Because there are going to be a few obvious cuts, like Spell Pierce, for example, is very weak in this matchup. And like maybe even trimming on Standstill makes sense. But he's going to have some good tools in the sideboard, like Pithing Needle, Kozilek's Return, Gideon, Containment Priest, maybe even Blood Moon. I don't think he's going to have too many cards to cut, so I'd expect to at least see some forces stay in the deck.
And he already started discarding, we see here. Like, he already discarded one of the Standstills, now he discards a Ponder. And Mislav's going to have to make a choice now. Is he going to start discarding, or... No,
yeah,
he starts...
So here's the 8th card in hand turn, and this is where he decided to pick his fight.
I would think that you would lead on... no, you can't really lead on Thalia if your plan is to play 2 more otherwise. That's probably going to be
Correct.
too mana intensive. Yeah. Otherwise, I would love to do that, because it makes Forcible so much worse. Like, Forcible plus Counterspell plus Swords to Plowshares, can't really do all of that. If I'm on Jody's side, I think I'm going to let any creature he plays resolve, and then just Supreme Verdict. Unless it's a creature that's capable of stopping that.
So many tools for creatures right now that answering like an Aether Vial or a piece of equipment is so much more important.
So you definitely fight over those buys, right? I think he also has Council's Judgment, and yeah, he's got Council's
Judgment. Like with double Supreme Verdict, Council's Judgment, Swords, he's got the creatures of the deck so under control.
Okay, now we see Thalia isn't even too threatening. He's got his own Caracas. Basically, she's like the worst Chancellor of the Annex we've ever seen. In a way, it makes you tap Caracas every turn.
Yeah, that's a bait card.
Totally. Oh, he even commits a Plowshare. I think Mislav must be really happy if he sees this Thalia sorted.
Yeah, like he didn't even bother to bounce it.
No.
This is a turn where he's just going to double port.
I think what he's trying to accomplish is, should Jody actually run out a chase here, which would be a safe play, he just wants to like catch him off guard when he's tapped out and then commit a lot more things to the board. But Jody is really just going to play a land and a Standstill. Oh, no, you can't play a Standstill into this other while.
That's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's probably like crazy. Yeah, he's
so
just
going to see Council's Judgment on the Vial. Yeah.
Followed by a Standstill. Yeah.
It's not the first Standstill that gets you. It's the second.
Wise words. You sound like you've been there before.
Yeah. It's demoralizing. And it's not a quick death either.
Yeah, that's the thing about miracles. And like back in the day, it would demoralize you so hard because you still had like that 5% chance to take down the game, but you needed to play for another 20 minutes. I think, is it like a similar concept here?
Yes. I really like this play of just like going for it immediately. You may force Jody Keith to just discard some of the cards, and if the Thalia resolves, he can't actually pay for a Force of Will due to the Thalia tax, so a second creature of 100% will resolve here. So if he wanted, he could like Recruiter for some annoying card like Sanctum Prelate and stick it right here.
Sanctum Prelate, probably put it on 4, but I think, as far as I remember, it might not be in his deck, but we will see in a second. Assuming
it is in the main deck.
It is in the main deck. So is this the card you're looking to get here and probably put it on 4 because you expect the Supreme Verdict or the Chase?
Shutting off both Jace and Verdict here is pretty huge.
You could also put it on 1 just in case he anticipates. Yeah, he puts it on 1. Wow, interesting. Because he anticipated Snapcaster Mage on Swords of Plowshares.
Yep. Like, it's probably like a getcha gotcha situation where either way you do it, it's likely to be removed. So.
Yeah, Jody is happy right now. He can even play another Stencil. Oh my god. He's gonna draw he's got 25 cards left in his deck. He needs to find a win condition at some point. I guess that won't be a problem. I really want to see a Decree of Justice come down this game.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that earlier. So for anyone not familiar with the glory that is Decree of Justice, it is a card with cycling. And when you cycle it for 3 mana, you can pay X. And if you do so, you create X 1/1 white soldier tokens. So it is a threat that you can play through Standstill other than just simply ban lands.
So, rules question. When you cycle Decree of Justice, do you first draw the card or do you first get your tokens?
Okay, so cycling is an activated ability. So you...
I'm talking to a judge, I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, so you cycle it, and the activation cost of that is 2 and a white and discarding the card. Then after the colon is draw the card. When you cycle the decree, a trigger is placed on the stack. So you will actually resolve the decree trigger before you draw the card.
Well, you heard it here first. And if you ever wondered, that's actually something that came up like back in the Landstill mirrors, but not very often. Like it barely mattered, but when it did, like you should like be aware of that. But honestly, I'm not even sure if that works. But if you tell me so, I will believe you. Anyway, so we get Mislav establishing another army of white weenies that draw cards or do other annoying things, while Jody just sits there like as the Sauron that he is, and he's probably just gonna play another Supreme Verdict.
Oh no, I have to Verdict again.
Yeah.
So Mislav played that turn really well, just kind of catching the game up. He played 2 creatures that effectively cantripped. Looks like getting himself a Flicker Wisp and a Sword of Fire and Ice. So even though he's eating it to like another Supreme Verdict here, he's not actually falling that far behind in terms of like actual factual card advantage. Unfortunately, Standstill number 3 has things to say about that.
And it's actually the last Standstill in the deck because he discarded another one earlier to hand size. So if Mislav now manages to fight past that Supreme Verdict as that Standstill and somewhat come out even-ish, then we actually got a game. And I think that's the most amazing part about all of this. That's like Jody, he's got 3, 6, like something like close to +6, depending on how you want to count the Standstill card advantage. And we are still seeing a game. And also that's part of the beauty of Death and Taxes. Like if you play it really well, you can really grind out wins from positions that don't really like. Honestly, earlier on this game, I thought this was over. Like I thought Mislav was gonna concede and Jody's gonna just land something. And eventually this might happen if he finds the decree, because like what are your outs against decree? You don't have jitter anymore. I guess Batterskull.
Decree? What are you talking about?
Batterskull, maybe. I don't know. That was countered as well. Oh.
No, with the Batterskull and the Jisse gone, you start getting into situations where it's like play Flicker Wisp, flicker a token, or try to clog up the board with a bunch of first strikers to like take the tokens down in waves. But it's not pretty.
Honestly, at this point, I'm really wondering whether I can just run him out of win conditions, but it's probably not happening because there's also Snapcaster Mage. It's just so tempting to commit all the Swords of Plowshares to the mainlands. Like if he really is only on like 4 Mishra's Factories and doesn't run Wastelands, then the ports shut down the Mishra's Factories for good. But then there's still a problem of Chase that like will eventually come down. It's just to me like I get like all excited when I think maybe I can actually run him out of cards. He's down to 21, so basically 20, like 18 minus the standstill. If he fetches 17, I recently like actually did that to America's player where I completely ran him out of win conditions with elves and won that way. And that was probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever done in Magic. So yeah,
I have some really awkward Moto screenshots of doing things like that. You win on turn 40.
Have we got 23 now? Is that a record for the league by now? 24? How high can you go? Like, guys, what did you bet on? We actually talked about Twitter before the league actually started to. I think it was some Canadian Magic Pro who's involved in a betting site that we might actually offer bets on the Legacy Premier League if we find a way to do that. So
can we do that legally without Wizards yelling at us?
Well, we're using all kind of copyrighted stuff anyway for all of these things. So yeah, if your money was on this match going beyond 25 turns, you are a winner. Yeah, and now we see what I was mentioning, like the Mislav factories actually become tapped down by the parts. I mean, this is what we tune in for, right? Like we sometimes want to see the most explosive plays and like the decks that really fascinate you. But to me, this is also like, this is what Magic was all about when I started getting into Legacy in 2005. Like these super drawn out Landstill mirrors, not against Death and Taxes, which wasn't really a deck back then, but against other grindy decks. And I remember that in the Landstill mirror, for example, like one of the huge techs that at least the people in my area in Germany did was to sideboard Extirpate with Cunning Wish. But I was so bad, I don't even remember which cards they were looking to extirpate, but probably something that gave them an advantage. And that was like the tech to break the mirror. So I'm sure Chad will... Oh, he finds the degree, by the way. Oh, this is not going to end well for our boy Mislav.
Uh-oh.
Tons of soldiers are going to rain down on him. It's going to be like World War II.
We're looking at like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere on the order of 8 or so soldiers if he waits to do it like when he untaps.
I think he wants to do it right now, yeah. So what is Mislav gonna do? I think like when I'm in a similar position with elves where I'm up against like say a mentor that makes a lot of tokens, I just commit as much as I can to the board to force the opponent to either Verdict or Terminus.
Yep.
But do we really see that happening? He's also got Engineered Explosive Swords. He can like force offer twice if he wants to, a Snapcaster into Swords of Plowshares. Like if there's somebody who can do it, it's probably a good guy on Death and Texas. Actually, it's only 4 tokens.
Yeah, so not waiting may or may not be a mistake. It's hard to tell. Like he has double force and EE and snap, and this is probably enough to force the standstill to break, which is probably ultimately what he's going for.
Yeah. And I'm also interested in Jody not cracking that Arid Mesa. Yeah, probably doesn't have any more targets.
Oh, we might be at no fetchables.
So yeah, because for a moment I was thinking maybe it's not to get decked earlier, but that's not really a concern right now. But
yeah, so he has 2 bulks, 3 tundras, 2 plains, 2 islands as fetchables. So there's still a second island in the deck. What do you want to see?
I want Mislav to be able to somehow deal with the tokens. Like even Thalia like stops those tokens. And then it comes down to like build your own and treat the angels. And Jody goes Snapcaster Mage, Decree of Justice, make like 2 angels or something, I don't even know, and then win with those angels.
Yeah, so like even these soldier tokens getting answered isn't that big of a deal because there's still so many tools left in Jody's toolbox. Like Snapcaster Supreme Verdict is still a thing too. So
yeah, but that doesn't win the game, does it? Like he's down to 12 cards now. At some point, like even Chase isn't fast enough. And like I recently posted on Twitter as well, Chase is technically not a win condition. If you have 7 cards in hand, like it's probably not going to be enough before Jody decks out. And unless Jody uses Chase. Yeah, Jody can use Chase. Like Jody uses Chase on Mislav first to make him like put 7 cards into his deck. And then Jody's got to uptick Chase often enough to use the ultimate on himself if he's got at least something like 7, 9, 11, 13, 5. If he's got like 5 cards left, then he can also uptick Chase and ultimate on himself to stay alive.
Oh man, that's something I don't think I've ever seen. That was
I saw that when I played Lance against Miracles 5 years ago or something, even longer ago, I think 6 years, and we naturally arrived at a draw where I had no win conditions left, and neither had my opponent, and he only had Chase, but I kept putting Mox Diamond on top with... by the way, we got our first subscribe with Academy Ruins, so yeah, we naturally arrived at a draw. Brandon Johnson, and then I didn't see the rest. Thank you so much for being the very first subscriber. I didn't even know that people could subscribe to our channel right now. I know that like we were close to affiliate and partner as well, but apparently this just became a thing. So, oh my god, I don't even know what's going on. How did we get a subscriber?
Congratulations, Julian. You're on the path to greatness.
Apparently, I don't even have like subscriber icons. Oh my god, I really gotta get that going. Like, what do we need? Sorry, I'm just getting so excited. Maybe you should take over and we should focus on the game again.
Okay, so we're likely going to see a handful of threats vomited onto the battlefield here. Likely starting with the Thalia, so that any further interaction from Jody will require more mana. But that's not the case. Starting with the Spirit.
Another interesting play that Kanaxai in the chat mentioned, that actually was a thing in the Landstill mirrors back then as well. You can crack your own Standstill to make the opponent deck out. If you still had one left, you know that Jody doesn't, but I'm just mentioning it because it's so interesting. Like, you see these games coming down to both players have like 1 or 2 cards in the library. Then they start like Swords of Plowsharing their own Mishra's Factory. The other guy goes like Force of Will. Okay, Counterspell. All sorts of Plowshares again. Just to get the last spell in to make the opponent draw for the Standstill, because it triggers again for every spell you play. And I've seen that a couple of times, and that would be like so hilarious if this game would have come down to that, but right now, it doesn't really look like it. It might actually come down to regular decking. So, this has been excellently navigated by Mislav. Seriously, like I mentioned a couple of times, I thought like, okay, this is probably gonna be over, but he somehow stays in the game, gets Jody down to like soon 10 cards in hand, makes him run out of spells. Doesn't really like present a very good like way for him to engineer explosives here, and also keeps the Mishra's Factory in check. Is he gonna trade? No, he doesn't need to trade the Spirit of the Labyrinth off yet.
No, we might just see like a Snapcaster Mage for like a Swords of Plowshares here to get the Spirit out of the way and force some damage through. But I am wrong.
Yeah, and then he's got like 5
I'm starting to be concerned about his clock.
Didn't we start like with 45 minutes or something on a clock?
Oh, sorry. By clock, I meant number of cards remaining in his deck, because that's the real indicator here.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, so that see, I told you.
Man,
this is what's gonna. It's exactly what I told you what's gonna happen. We got the old school 2005 and Treat Your Angels back in action. Wow. If you had told me that we would see Snapcaster Mage on Decree of Justice at any point during this season, I would have told you were crazy. But yeah, we got to upgrade. Great. This is not the Legacy Premier League. This is the Legacy Insanity League. Heard it here first. Somebody's going to register LegacyInsanityLeague.com now. Oh, I'm loving this. Oh, this is great. This is great. Also, Jody's deck apparently better at making white creatures than Mislav's deck. So what are you trying to do to those angels? You got Swords to Plowshares, but not much. I guess if you can get a flyer down, there's a chance.
So playing the Thalia there first means that any future spells will, with certainty, resolve. So that's a plus. However, we've got double angels here.
Double angels.
And Spirit of the Labyrinth with the sword isn't exactly a combo. Like, you can use that to take out an angel, but you won't actually draw a card with the sword trigger. So that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, he takes out the angel, which is somewhat surprising, because now I could see Mislav actually trading the Swords to Plowshares in his hand for the other angel.
Oh yeah, 100%. If that block happens.
It's also he doesn't block. Okay, yeah. I would have been surprised, because Jody already has a really good play lined up for next turn, where he just goes Engineered Explosives on 2.
Yep. And we should also probably see the Swords of Plowshares right here on the Angel before Jody gets to untap.
Yeah, and he sees the line.
Like force or counterspell it.
At this point, I start counting how many Snapcaster mages are gone by now, but I think I only see a single one and maybe an exile, I don't know.
Yeah, I only see one.
2. So I would put Jody on having another Snapcaster mage, which can probably wrath the board, but I think since we couldn't beat that anyways, I just don't really play around.
Hey, there's the Thalia play I was talking about, where he cast EE on one and then paid the tax with a second color. So that wipes both the creatures off the battlefield. And 7 damage comes through. Actually, probably 9 with the factory activation.
Yeah. Mislav came so close. Oh, I really wanted him to deck Jody. Nothing against Jody, just like I want to see these sweet plays happen. I guess we got to see the flashback on the not entreat the Angels and the Decree of Justice. What do the other decrees actually do? I think the blue decree counters. Decree
of Pain is, I think, like killing creatures or negative X or something like that.
Yeah, the Highlander card. I remember that. And there's Primats.
Well, that's a card with very annoying card. But it's not great against the opposing Caracas. Like, I don't even think we're going to see that forced. It's just going to get bounced.
Yeah.
And so this equip really doesn't do much.
Yeah.
Like, I guess this is like, make your opponent not remember Caracas is the thing to play.
Maybe just
and there's the moving it back to mom in shame.
I guess what he could have done is to reshade and port the car, but that doesn't.
Yeah, really then it just happens in the other.
Yeah. I was looking for like a tempo play that changed, but at turn 29, we probably can stop looking for tempo plays, especially with so little cards in hand. So what is Mislav Malimuchu looking to draw here? Is there any way back?
So he's going to take 7 this turn and go to 5. Maybe there's a world where he draws Recruiter of the Guard and he can go like Recruiter for Flicker Wisp. Opponent doesn't have any counter magic. The Flicker Wisp resolves. He blinks the Angel. Yeah, we're done.
And on turn 30, Jody wins the first game. There's many. I think there might have been groups in the Legacy Premier League thus far where we didn't even see 30 turns over the entirety of the group. Maybe we came close. So sideboarding. What are you looking to sideboard in? What do you want to bring in if you are on Mislav's side?
So I certainly want the Council's Judgment, although we didn't see it that game. Like, most certainly Jace the Mind Sculptor is in that deck, and likely some other big problematic cards of some nature. Something like Teferi wouldn't be out of the wheelhouse, and like we know he has the humility as well. Elspeth is a great card that's difficult to answer, so we'll probably see that as well as the Gideon come in. Beyond that, probably Pithing Needle. Again, it answers Jace, but more importantly, it can also answer things like Caracas and the Manlands that are problematic.
And which card as well? Decree of Justice. You can actually needle Decree of Justice.
That is correct.
Then you're gonna put up with the Angels eventually, but yeah, that's a play you can make.
So we'll probably see him trim or cut entirely his 5 main deck removal spells, the Path to Exile, the Swords to Plowshares, just to have a higher density of threat and more flexible answers.
That makes sense. Sometimes I wonder whether, like, if you have a bad card in the main deck that you want to get rid of, do you bring in like a single Canonist just to shut off Snapcaster Mage? It's not great, but if there's something that's even worse than Snap Canonist, but I don't really see anything I want to cut. All of those cards are good.
The problem with cards like Canonist in this matchup is that if you bring them in to be good against Snapcaster Mage, it's actually bad against Snapcaster Mage because it's just a 2/2 with no evasion. So if you're bringing that in to beat Snapcaster Mage, your opponent still trades Snapcaster for it, so it's super awkward.
Yeah, basically it's like a wall that says Snapcaster Mage is still like a 2/1 flash guy. Yeah, so it's not great. Yeah, I agree. I was just like trying to find the cute play. So on Jody's side, what are the threatening sideboard cards? Like, what's really? Oh, I see a Cosmic's Return. That must give you a lot of troubles.
That's the big scary card here. Kozilek's return is terrible, but the Snapcaster K return is just like gut-wrenching. That's really hard to beat. And Mother of Runes can't protect from it either. So we're probably going to see, like Gideon, K return, and Needle for sure, and very potentially Priest or Blood Moon as well.
He's not bringing the Blood Moons yet. And something that was like super interesting, even though Jody went down to like 8 cards in the library, he didn't come across Humility. And since Mislav didn't see Humility, he decided out, or he didn't even bring in Council's Judgment, and also kept Disenchant in the sideboard. And yes, he has the Planeswalkers, which help with Humility. Elspeth still makes like a 4/4 flyer, but Humility is going to be a big issue if he manages to find it.
So I can understand not bringing in the Disenchant, given everything that he saw. But I feel like the Council's Judgment probably just needs to come in. Like, all right, maybe he's a gambling man, and because his opponent got to so low in his library without seeing Jace, maybe he really does believe it's not there.
Oh, you think? Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, a couple of these high impact cards, Jody didn't see. But like Mislav, he's no slouch. He knows his shit. Like, he's one of the best legacy players I've ever met, and also a great guy. I got to meet him at GP Birmingham. So
Jody's mulligan hand is a little rough. Okay, never mind. He scryed a land to the top, or he got a land one way or the other, which makes that land much more playable.
So now do you lead on Thalia or Spirit here?
That's tough. I usually lead on Thalia. It's a very good tempo play for multiple reasons. Firstly, because if your opponent just has Swords to Plowshares when you're on the play, they can't just like use their 1 mana that turn to remove it. So a lot of times you get like a pseudo time walk by casting a Thalia on too.
Yeah, I can see that. And he also trades for the Supreme Verdict. Like, trading Thalia for Force and Supreme Verdict when it's a legendary 4-off in your deck, I think you feel good about that. Yes, there's the Landstill, and I've got like a feeling we are gonna end up in a very similar situation like we did in the first game. Yeah.
So if I'm Malamujo here, my plan is get up to a bunch of mana and use a few bait spells to get the counter spells out of hand, and then stick a Planeswalker.
Okay,
it's such a problematic threat type for the opposing deck.
You know what I think is gonna happen? It's just gonna no. I think this is gonna happen. My phone wants to cooperate. Oh, it doesn't. That's great. Okay, keep going. Nothing to see here, guys.
So much for the soundboard.
Oh, it doesn't even want to load. Okay, anyways, I wanted to play The Lion Sleeps Tonight. Ah, here we go. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Anyway, so Mislav is just gonna keep making his land drops until it's very loud. Okay, let's turn that off. Okay, Mislav is gonna keep making his land drops. Oh no! He senses weakness. Okay, he senses weakness. He uses double port to get out of counterspell range, and then he's just like, okay, if you find Force of Will for that Elspeth, so be it. But if you don't, I have a Planeswalker and you don't. And even if you find Chase, it's immediately gonna die.
Yeah, and we'll probably just see a Wasteland on the Tundra here.
Whoa, big play. Big play. He put him on the spot.
But Jody drew a Pithing Needle. So for one mana, he answers the Elspeth for now. And it's more or less permanent.
Let me get excited for a minute. Yeah, but he doesn't have the second white yet. Brainstorm will eventually probably just gonna find that. But Brainstorm might not even become... Brainstorm will become a thing because the Spirit gets handled by the Swords to Plowshares. Oh, this is like so many things to think around. But yeah, so... But he still might not get the double white.
Yeah, the follow-up Gideon is still a little scary. But the Spirit and the Mom that are in hand are 100% checked.
It's also going to be interesting whether he's going to crack the fetch land at some point before he gets the second white source in hand, because then Mislav can shut that off. And even though Mislav probably doesn't know that he's playing around Council's Judgment, he might still play around Supreme Verdict by attacking the white quite heavily. And there's another white source. So eventually, even if the Gideon comes down, it will probably be handled. But yeah, for now...
This was an interesting turn. Just committing the Mother of Runes to the board rather than one of the better cards. So he's trying to protect his Spirit of the Labyrinth and make that resolve, because it can put a lot of pressure on Jody's other resources. Like, if you look at the graveyard, he's only cast a Brainstorm as far as cantrips this game go. So there's a very good possibility from the other side that his hand might be full of cantrips. And Mom plus Spirit's pretty scary.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't sound very threatening, but you're right. I wonder if they will actually ever print a land that can flip into an equipment, because that's exactly what I would want against control decks. So Wizards, if you're listening, give us Gaia's Cradle that flips into Batters or Skullclamp or something. I don't know, but while retaining its abilities or something. Yes, get around the reserved list by printing lands that are actually better than the ones on the reserved list. Not worse ones or snow ones, just outright better ones.
I mean, D&T will just keep getting more and more tools every year because R&D loves us. So
you guys
maybe we'll get there.
I guess we share that love. Ives also gets a lot of new cards and new toys, and then we never adopt any of them, and Wizards probably just doesn't like us anymore at some point. Like, we are the rich kid that always gets presents, but we throw them out after like a week because we just like our old stuff better, or start like campaigning them for Magus of the Choke or something, or Leyline of the Choke, because that's what we really want. So, finally a use for Spell Snare, which usually should have a lot of uses against Death and Taxes, but in this game, like, Jody had a hard time like finding a way for it to connect.
Oh, Gideon time?
Yeah, definitely Gideon time. Because, like, Mislav knows you can't deal with my creatures and my Gideon in the same turn unless you find maybe another Pithing Needle, but that's not very likely. Like, Pithing Needle plus the team Preprime Verdict, he's willing to lose to that. But other than that, it's unfortunate for him that he doesn't have any gas anymore, and probably no way to deal with the... I guess he has Flicker Wisp. So it's not great, but you can Flicker Wisp Needle for a turn and get another activation. I guess if you find enough Flicker Wisp, you can even build up to the ultimate long shot. But yeah, so I don't hate Mislav's position here.
Like, he still has 3 damage, so he still has a clock. He still has 2 creatures he can play in the same turn if, like, something like a Supreme Verdict happens to clear those idiots off the battlefield. But unfortunately, even something like a Snapcaster Mage here will trade with both of those bodies. Like, Snapcaster for Swords to Plowshares, trades with the Knight, and then Swords the Soldier. And then any follow-up play would be rough.
Oh boy. Gideon. Hello.
Oh boy.
Gideon the Corrupted. Leaves one, shows up on the other one. That is a
respectable brainstorm.
Like, if this was a paper match and they both had the same kind of sleeves, I would immediately check whether my Gideon was still in the exile. So what is he putting back? He's looking to just put back lands here.
I think he put back land.
Yeah. But do you really want to keep the Decree? Yeah, I guess it's okay. It makes blockers. Yeah. I can see that.
Like, even if he were just to, like, cycle the Decree and make 3 1/1s, that would buy so much time on the current board.
Mm-hmm. And Mislav keeps going on those ports. Like, I've never seen a Death and Taxes player who was so committed to making those ports work, even in the later stages of the game. And he's getting decent value out of it. Like, Gideon has been delayed for another turn. Decree of Justice. Jody might cycle Decree of Justice on upkeep just to get around those annoying ports and actually, like, establish a better board. So we will see. Mislav decides to tap down the blocker.
Yeah, now we're on the offensive use of port, which is usually reserved for things like Maze of Ith, but this works too.
And he's got, I think Stoneforge is a great card. Like, we're really looking to find any sort of business, and as much as I'm, like, not a fan of the card Stoneforge, it's definitely something that you can put to use here. Like, it's good against Decree of Justice, it's okay against the Mishra's Factory. Gideon, I don't know how Stoneforge matches up against Gideon. What does Gideon's emblem even do? It makes all your creatures +1/+1, right?
Yeah, you get a little Honor of the Pure. Or I guess not Honor of the Pure, one of the ones that's more universal.
Glorious Anthem.
Yes.
That's what we called it back in the days. It was worth so much in my school. We traded everything we had for a glorious anthem that we could never cast. Because we only played like 5 planes in our deck. So, who do you think is going to take this?
I think it's gonna be pretty close. Like, we might get to the point where, like, Mislav gets to draw a Flicker Wisp out that needle, fly something with Elspeth, and do the last couple of points of damage.
You know what I want to do on this board? I want to equip Better Skull. Like, he can do that.
Yeah, like Stoneforge equip. Stoneforge put in Batterskull, equip Batterskull immediately is a valid line.
It's probably too cute, especially since we haven't
He's
seen.
got the
We've only
Revoker,
seen one Swords to Plowshares. Yeah. I would have loved to keep Revoker or like make Revoker once Mother is active because it's a really important card on this board. But I think he's just gonna commit a ton again, and now he can't tap down the white this time.
I think he's trying to press his advantage while his opponent's life total is so low to give him minimal amounts of time to draw an out to his board. Like if hypothetically, if he got to untap with all of his stuff that he has currently, his opponent would be on a 2-turn clock just from like Batterskull hits, which could be given protection with Mom.
So right now you don't think about the Planeswalker anymore, Gideon. You just try to go for the life total. Like that's also a decision you always have to make in these like weenie type decks, and that also ends up sometimes. Like, do you pressure the life total, which you would be able to murder in 2 turns, or do you pressure the Planeswalker, which would be easier to kill, but of course less of a reward than winning the game, unless it's like a Russian foil chase or something that you really want to kill. I don't know.
Usually when the Planeswalker is Jace, it's often worth your time to get that bugger off the board. With the Gideon, I can understand not letting it go for a turn or two, especially if you have something evasive like a flyer.
Oh, wow. Now on this board, imagine if he drew Flicker Wisp. If he drew Flicker Wisp, he can make the Better Skull, use
7,
the
yeah. Oh, man.
to 7 him.
Flicker Wisp, one-time dealer.
One time, man. Do it. Actually, it would be more, right? It's because the knight is a 2/2, so it would turn to a 5/5, so into like a 9/9. Or did I miss something? Oh, you also have to play Flicker Wisp and equip. Okay, yeah. you couldn't do that. That's too much to ask for. Unless you play Gaia's Cradle. Watch me play Burn in the next match.
So, like, if he puts in the Batterskull and gets Flicker Wisp, he Flicker Wisps the needle, just pumps the Batterskull, and it also gets flying, and that would be lethal. So it's fine with just drawing a Wisp.
But the Ballista is also a huge draw here, right? It's like a really
this
great
is
card.
very good. So he gets to cast it for 3.
Unless he casts it for 1, which probably wouldn't make any sense. Then he runs into Spare Pierce.
So what happens if he just Alpha Strikes and then plays Walking Ballista post-combat? That's not good enough.
To make Jody feel like, oh, okay, I can barely make the blocks that I need to stay alive, and then Ballista murders him for 3. I can see that. But
it doesn't, like, the math doesn't quite check out.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, Batterskull gets chumped. The Knights trade, Soldiers trade, Revoker trades, and then like maybe Stoneforge gets through, and that's only 1.
So say you take out 3 of those, then you get in for 4. Like he can get in for 4 if he like also kills his own Ballista, which you really don't want to do on a board like this. I think if you want to make Ballista, you make it for 3, but you only ever use like 2 tokens. There's no need to. Yeah, I think he's going for. Just for the value play. Like, he attacks the bigger creatures in and trades with Jody stuff. But if you want to make Ballista, I think you really want to make it now, because next turn he might have, like, hardcast Force of Will or something up. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think he casts the Ballista this turn and doesn't use it, just sits there with it. And then if he, like, gets around to another turn and he draws a land, he can just go like pump ballista, and then one more turn of that is just dead, completely ignoring the rest of the board.
Yeah, but he stays patient. He just sits back and keeps putting those ports to work. There must be like a special port tax. Maybe, like, Croatia has a coast. They should have him working on some port there. I don't know. I know Dubrovnik. They have a coast. They have a port. That's where they filmed King's Landing of Game of Thrones.
Today I learned.
That's what we're here for, right? You can teach me more about Latin. I loved Latin back in school. So we get Needle. What is Needle looking to do? Is Needle gonna take out Misha's factory? Like, Decree of Justice is already gone, and I wouldn't really think that he would have a second one. But I also don't really feel like I want to chase on this board, because I think I got chase covered pretty well. So do you... I don't really see a use for Needle yet. You could name Factory, I guess.
He couldn't... Playing this very patiently. So I don't know whether or not that's correct.
Yeah,
but it certainly doesn't feel bad.
Yeah. What if Jody finds Supreme Verdict here? Then Bataska goes back to hand and gets replayed, I guess.
Or maybe not even. You can just like leave it on the battlefield, cast the ballista, and then like that ballista equipped to Batterskull is lethal. And you can also remove the counters on it freely once it's equipped to Batterskull, because its base toughness will be above 0/0.
Yeah, I just feel like I would rather have two smaller creatures than one big creature on a board like this. So what did he name? He named Engineered Explosives. Yeah, I guess that's a reasonable name. We haven't seen explosives in this game at all, but it's certainly still gonna... Yeah, I think Engineered Explosives is a great name. And he finds a standstill that you really don't... Is this over now? Or is... So he can get in for 2, taking him down to 5. But that's still not good enough. I think he's really just gonna attack with the Batterskull and maybe a soldier token. Like, if I was him, I would totally attack with the Stoneforger and the soldier token. Especially since both Misha's factories are tapped by now.
Yeah, so now he's taking this as ballista time. So he's going to remove both soldier tokens and force through lethal.
Is he?
Yep.
Like, I was trying to come up with what he was playing around. Like, probably some sort, like, what's the most effective thing Jody could have in hand? Like, sword, Snapcaster Sword to take out 3 creatures, and he doesn't want that to happen. Maybe, but here he's got a clean attack and should take the game. Yeah, that should be enough. 5, 6, 7, 8 plus ballista, technically 9 if he needs to. Yeah, he made it work. I don't know what they're still waiting for, but yeah. Interesting, great game. Wow, we really need to get those guys to like play an entire like best of 7 series for us.
Very well played. I think we're up to what, like 43 turns in this this match so far. We're doing great work.
I wonder what the record for like overall on screen for like community leagues is. Maybe there's some weird scenario, but yeah. So interesting. How are the players gonna adapt once again?
So I would expect Council's Judgment to come in, although...
After seeing the Planeswalker?
So I see one of them still in the sideboard, one in the main deck now. The Relic of Progenitus coming in is sort of interesting as a hedge against Snapcaster Mage.
You also see Jody taking out the 2 Containment Priests again. Not sure, like... Does he really expect Mislav to side out the other wilds? I would think not, especially not against the Standstill deck. Yeah, he brings back 1 Containment Priest. I guess Containment Priest also not great against Flicker Wisp, but if you have other creatures. But
I think the internal debate going on there is regarding the Planeswalkers that he saw. So he saw both Elspeth and Gideon on the other side of the table. So he's wondering, is this Spell Pierce that wasn't good in game 1 better for post-sideboard games now? I think that's what he's thinking about.
When he's on the play and he can Spell Pierce an Etherwile, maybe, yeah. In general, I'm really not a fan of Spell Pierce against Death and Taxes.
I'm very happy when my opponents play Spell Pierce against me.
Yeah. Like, unless you hit that vial, it's really going to be a pretty terrible card. Oh,
interesting. We're seeing him get rid of Ponders here.
But that's usually... That either means you have so much stuff that you're an overwhelming favorite, or you're somewhat desperate and making calls you shouldn't be making? Like, what else could he really take out? Like, what?
So I guess he's making a concession to both like Thalia and Spirit of the Labyrinth, which make Ponder, noticeably worse. And he's just trying to like naturally draw the cards that he needs for the matchup. But as the game goes on to, literally turn 30 here, having those cantrips in the deck really does matter.
Oh, and we see Mislav with the turn 1 wild that will probably go unopposed unless the brainstorm finds something.
I am snap keeping that 1 land Aether Vial hand. That is a strong hand.
I want that to happen. Give it to me. Oh, he's naming Vial in the blind. Nice.
Oh,
that's pretty aggressive.
That is very aggressive.
I mean, I guess that's what the card came in for, except for Planeswalkers, but that's really aggressive. Usually, if I was in Mislav's place, I would probably now draw a second Aether Vial. So interesting. How far do you let the Vial go up? Like, because you have Flicker Wisp, you can maybe take out the Needle at some point for a turn at least. Do you keep it at 2?
I do like Jody's play because he had 2 lands and the Standstill. So on turn 1, he wanted to set himself up for a turn 2 Standstill play that actually made sense.
Yeah, it's like he didn't have Force of Will, so he preemptively Force of Will otherwise just to make sure the Standstill gets there, which definitely makes a lot of sense. It's still going to be interesting. Should Mislav actually have a way to deal with the Aether Vial eventually, which we know he only has like in 1 card to permanently remove it, and he's still very far from like either finding or casting Counter Judgment. So if you're this far behind and probably have to discard soon, No, he keeps going. He doesn't want to play Mon there.
So Mislav's hand is actually very weak right now. So he's 100% willing to just like churn through his deck, make a bunch of land drops, build up the best hand that he can, and then attempt cracking the Standstill. So we realistically might not see him take any action for like literally 10 turns here.
Oh, does the lion sleep again? No. Anyway. It's honestly, from Mislav's position, this just feels so miserable. Like, this is different from the other games where you manage to make your land drops, because that's a key thing about like Standstill. If you can make your land drops, then it's not that bad, like you mentioned, especially if he keeps finding his land drops. I guess that's also a way to do it. What do you think about Decree of Justice in Death and Taxes?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. That's not a card I've thought a lot about.
That's why it's going to be good.
Sleeper pick. You heard it here, folks.
Like
soon to be seen in the top 8 of GP Richmond.
Have you guys ever thought about like playing Big Bad Angels in your deck? Just like some lifelinkers?
Yeah, I've played the 4-mana one. I believe it's Gisela, Blade of... that card was pretty okay.
Exalted Angel.
It dies to Lightning Bolt, unfortunately.
Another reason to play Exalted Angel.
Yeah. I've played Baneslayer Angel as a 2-of in my sideboard before, back when like Shardless Bug was just absolutely everywhere.
I'm loving
the look of horror when you take an Aether Vial up to 5 against an opponent and then tap it is very special.
What's going to happen?
I don't know what that is, but it's very bad.
You know what I've always wanted to make happen? And I'm thinking about it. It's Wild Elves. Elves also has the potential to abuse Wild pretty widely. And
putting it on 2 with Elvish Visionary Wirewood combo is kind of cool. Like
then you get to draw
I can understand that. And then you can also play the bad Elvish Visionary, the green one that has like Echo.
Tennis Acolyte. Yeah. Reed Duke actually recently played that in his list on Channel Fireball. But I gotta be honest, like Reed even initially said that he's only playing it because of popular demand, and I guess he didn't really feel like playing it. That's just been my impression. I could be totally wrong. Anyway, back to the game where Mislav keeps discarding cards, unfortunately. Oh, you got the Be Right Back screen. Apparently, this is too violent for our viewers to watch.
And we got it.
Okay. Oh, okay. We just got information.
Sorry, Julian's just hallucinating. Ignore him.
Yeah, I hallucinated the Be Right Back screen. So Phil, what do you want to draw in Mislav's position? Just additional lands and then eventually...
Oh, man. We have things happening. That was a brainstorm to crack his own standstill there.
Yeah, Jody got pissed. He was like, okay, whatever, man. Let's just play Magic again. I don't even like this card. I play a card. I just Ancestor you. How do you feel about that? And Mislav just probably discards 4 cards. It's actually kind of crazy. It's like the best mill spell ever.
This is fine, and now he's gonna like play Jace on an empty board, brainstorm, and then have K return up, as well as like Snapcaster or Swords to Plowshares, Snapcaster, Swords to Plowshares, and Verdict too. Ooh, and a Force as a draw there. Or it was
on the other side of the board, Mislav couldn't even cast White Knight if he had it. This is a bit depressing right now, honestly.
So for people not overly familiar with the mana base of Death and Taxes, it usually has 8 or so colorless lands. So despite being a mono white deck, you are not always guaranteed to be able to cast things that have white in its cost. You know, as we can see here, the Prelate and the Elspeth are uncastable, and it can't even double spell in a turn, despite having all that extra time to set up.
Yeah. Usually, like, the way you would like come back from something like this is to overload your opponent's mana in the way that you're playing more things that he can handle in a single turn cycle. So every turn cycle you get a little closer. Unfortunately, cards like Supreme Verdict put an end to that. And without Etherwild Online, like if he had Etherwild Online, this would be a game. Like for some reason that Needle disappeared post Landstill, I think we would actually be seeing an interesting game where Jody would still be very much favored with like double sweeper plus Snapcaster Mage, but on this board, seriously, I'm having a hard time imagining, like, if Mislav got to Time Walk twice, I would still not be sure he could take this game.
Yeah, like, the best draw here would probably just be a basic Plains.
Of which he got 11, and then he's got a snow covered.
All right.
Whoa! Big time. Okay, what's going to happen? Elspeth. No, it's not going to resolve. Oh.
Yeah.
They should print better removal spells for Planeswalkers, not just Pyroblast for Chase. You know, if green had such a card, it would probably hit black, but there's no black Planeswalkers that we really... I guess Liliana... Nah, okay. Forget what I said.
Green/red does have a guttural response, so it can answer blue instants or sorceries just fine.
Yeah! My cap is half full. One day we're gonna see that. You know, every once in a while, like, there's a cycle that's about elves. Every 3 years, somebody brings up Vexing Shasha, and people are like, oh, yes, we can send it for Vexing Shasha. And it's like, no. So, yeah. Trying to see things from the bright side. What is, once again, Mislav trying to do here? He can next turn cast Thalia and Spirit. Like, Spirit technically shuts off Chase if Jody's Hellbent, I guess. And Jody just keeps drawing them cards. He's not scared of backing out. He's like, oh, okay.
We also just might see like Recruiter into Revoker and just like try to shut off the Jace. But like doing that into the face of Standstill now feels pretty bad.
Man, I really liked Mislav's opening hand. I think I would have really loved to see... Did we actually see a single game where Otherwise was active? I think we didn't.
No.
Because the deck is transformational. I know, who was it? You'd probably, I don't know if you know Mark Vogt. He's a well-known German legacy player who just recently top-8'd MKM Prague. And I don't fully agree with him on that, but something he uses to say is that if Death and Taxes could guarantee to always have turn 1 Etherwild, it would far and away be the best deck in the format. And I'm not sure if that's true, but I also don't know.
I don't really think that's an exaggeration. I don't keep statistics on it, but like you're probably at least 10% more favored to win any random matchup when you start with Aether Vial in your opening hand and it resolves. It's such an incredibly powerful Magic card in this shell, and the things you get to do with Flicker Wisp, they're dirty. Sometimes I have to take a shower after I stream.
But yeah, so if you could play more than 4 otherwise, say they printed in a functional reprint, how many would you want in that deck? Like 7? 8? So, at some point, that must be too much.
Yeah, so there is diminishing returns on them, but like probably playing something closer to 6 is probably ideal. Like the issue is like your creature count. Like a lot of times with with D&T in the post-sideboard games where you're trimming a bunch of your creatures for hate, you're going really low on your creature count. So if you were to stick more Ether Vials in the deck, then your starting creature count would be lower.
So basically, you would at one point you would be sitting there and you're like, okay, otherwise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come at me, bro, and you're sitting there and you got like the 8th Otherwise in hand, and yeah. But you could make the sickest tutor chains. Like if you played a creature for 2 that tutored up a creature for 3 that finds a creature for 4, like you draw a single card and your entire board is like 8 creatures.
Well, if you see that. Hypothetically, if you started playing more vials, like you'd play something with more artifact synergy, like you might get like Pia and Kieran Nalar in the red splash, and then you can throw all the remaining Ether Vials at your opponent's face in the late game.
Baruch making a good suggestion. We need Magos of the Vile. It would be like a 1-mana creature that has the Vile ability, and then maybe something else, so it can like carry an equipment, like I don't know, give it Shadow or something. I don't like seriously. I should design some set. Wizards would be making so much money, and then nobody would ever play Magic again. It would be worth it. I promise.
I'm still waiting on my Rest in Peace bear. I got really close with the Cleric, but I'm just waiting for like maybe like a 3-mana. Maybe like 3/2 flyer, nukes graveyards, ETB. How does that sound? Totally fine, right?
Perfectly balanced. But okay.
All right.
The game
we've finally given up all hope.
Mislav has run out of steam and he just couldn't do it. And I think now it's our time to get into our match. I'm starting matching online right now as there's an update. Oh, okay. I got actual internet at home. Perfect. So it doesn't really take forever. I was scared there for a moment.